Okay, so today we're going to be basically tearing apart this whole 2004 Ford Escape. It's the V6 model with the 4x4 to get to the heater core. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to rip off this little center console piece here. There's two little plastic bolts here that you take out. They're plastic screws actually, they're Phillips head. And the screw will come out, and then there's a little thing that pops right out too. Two on this side, two on the opposite side, and then there's a 12 volt here that once you start to pull it out, you'll see it, and there's a little plug that you unplug. What you're doing is ripping off all the dials here. They just pop right off, each one of them. Just remember which position you had them in when you rip them off. So I had all of them pointing straight up to make it easy on myself. So next you take a flathead screwdriver and you're going to just pry this whole thing around all the edges, this whole plastic piece off here. And what it's going to reveal on the other side here are all these cords that you're going to need to disconnect. So what I did was I disconnected this. There's just 4 different screws. It was a 7mm size, and I just need to disconnect the rest of these wires now. Okay, so next we're removing the radio. What I did was I made some hooks out of just coat hanger actually. They fit in these 4 holes here. You push them in, and then you're gonna wiggle the radio loose. So once you push those in, you're able to pull the radio out, and I did, and you disconnect these two just by pushing on the top here and pulling them out, as well as the antenna radio. And next I'm going to be taking off the glove box here, which I guess I didn't show this, but you take it out and you push the 2 sides in, it flips down, and then there's 2 7mm bolts here. Cut it. So next you're going to be ripping off this side paneling piece here. You just take a flathead and flip it up and pop it out. And what I'm going to be doing next is there's 2 screws in here. There's this huge metal setup that goes through the entire dash here, and it's actually in the way of the heater core. So what I'm trying to do is loosen it so that I can move it slightly out of the way. See, because it's still connected to all the plastic. I'm trying to save myself a little bit of trouble here. So there's 2 bolts here, and then there are 2 bolts down here on both sides, so total of 8 bolts, and all 8 are 10mm socket wrench. So I'm going to work on getting those out. So next we're going to need to remove the plastic off of the steering column and lower it out of place. So there's 3 Phillips heads. There's one here, here, and then there's a 3rd one under this latch here that lowers the steering column. So you need to remove all 3 of those, and all 3 are Phillips heads. So the top part of the steering column here, it actually just pops right off. The bottom half, you're going to need to pop off this plastic retainer piece to be able to get the bottom piece off. That's good. Okay, so next we need to lower the steering column even more, and so we're going to do that by, if it'll properly zoom, let's see. There it is. There's a bolt right there, and then there's one on the exact opposite side behind that wiring there, and they're 10mm bolts, so both need to be removed to lower the steering column. Okay, so now the steering column is down. It's fine if it's resting on the seat. I'm going to take out these 2 bolts here, which are both 7mm bolts, to take off this little bezel around the dash cluster. Okay, so that piece just pops off with a flathead. There's a couple of hooks here. Next, you're going to be taking out the dash cluster here, and I'm going to do that by these 4 7mm bolts right here in these 4 different places. And then behind it, there's some wiring that I'm going to disconnect just like with the radio. So next, and we're going to unfortunately have to do this on both sides, we need to rip off the weather stripping right here. And so to do that, I took out this bolt. It's actually a little plastic piece here, along with a Phillips screwdriver. And what we're going to do is we're going to flip it up as best as we can, and what it reveals is that the weather stripping ends right there. Otherwise, I already disconnected my negative battery cable, so I can't move the seat since it's electric. There's another bolt right there that you could remove, but since the weather stripping ends right here, we're just going to go with this.
Leather's tight.
So what's next is I need to pop these off to get the handle support here, and there are one on each of these 7mm bolts that need to come out. So once you have that handle off, the plastic just pops right off again. Okay, so next what we're going to be doing is just taking off these 2 little 7mm bolts. So you also need to remove this plastic box thing right here. These clips just pop right off, and there's one tiny little plastic screw right here. It needs to come off before you can pull the whole dash forward. So what's next is you're going to pop this little plastic piece off from the center here of the dash, and there's a 10mm bolt holding it down, so you're going to loosen that out. So earlier I forgot to mention that I actually had to pull a bolt out of here from here. It's a 10mm and it's kind of deep in. It's hard to see with the lighting, but it's a 10mm bolt. It's deep in there. So there's one more bolt. It needs to be done on the steering column, and you can't really see it because of the light. Give me a sec. There it is. So right there, there's like as it comes to a V, one bolt that connects it back to all the metal harnessing on everything. So that needs to be undone, and it's a 10mm bolt. Okay, so I finally was able to pull the majority of the dash back here. So see how far I pulled it? What I didn't show, what I did was I had to disconnect. This is the antenna cord here. It was connected in right there onto the you can kind of see the orange connection there. Along with these 2 connectors here that go to the fan right here. They just unplug. They're fairly easy once you see them. Anyway, so next we're gonna get to getting the heater core out, which is right here. So to get this off of basically the heater core door, you just take a flathead and push this little nub here off, and it just slips right off. So next you need to get this little plastic piece off. It's hooked onto this metal wire here. And you just take a flathead and pop it off. It comes off real easy. And then what you need to do is just hook this little piece that we just took that little plastic piece off. You just hook it out because it's going to block this this whole plastic door from coming off, and right behind this is the heater core. Okay, so with 3 8mm bolts, this plastic piece comes off, and right behind it is the heater core. So we're going to go disconnect the heater core lines that go from the engine to the heater core up on the other side of the firewall here, and push the heater core through and put the new one in.
So funny.
Okay, so here's the engine, and those 2 hoses right there are the hoses that go into the heater core. So they have 2 clamps. I've already turned the clamps around. They may take a bit of working to get them turned upside like that. Anyways, you're gonna slide them down the hose here, pop the hoses off, and then the heater core is ready to be pushed through. Most people recommend that you flush the entire coolant system. However, it's not really necessary. it should work perfectly fine. Just add a little extra water or coolant to the reservoir so that it'll replace the coolant that's going to be dumped from the heater core right here. So I disconnected it there, and let me see the flash. Right there, you can see them sticking out. I'm going to push them through so I can get a better grip. They have to be pulled, has to be pulled from the inside. And I put my heater hoses up so that all the coolant isn't draining out. So I pushed it from the other side. We're just going to pull it out now. Hopefully we have enough room. Almost. I'm going to have to mess with it for just a minute. So what I did was I put just some paper towel plugs in it. You can kind of see them there, just so it didn't spill coolant all over the inside of my car. And the grand finale of just putting this heater core back in, the replacement one. Just like that. Make sure it goes through the holes properly. We'll have to mess with it, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is obviously going to be the reverse of what you did to put it all back together. So now I got this nightmare of putting it all back together now.